Hello guys, and welcome to today's class on Java programming. It's an introductory series that I'm putting up for those who are complete beginners in Java. Okay, so we are starting off like from the very foundation. I tried to put up a video last week, but then I found out that the video was not very clear. I'm taking that down, and then we are starting all over. So what are we doing in today's class? The first thing we are doing is we are seeing how to write our very first Java program. Okay, so the very first Java program using the IDE called NetBeans. Then we are going to look at how to use variables to enhance that first program that we write. Then we'll go on to see how we can further enhance that very first program with user inputs. Okay, and then we'll wrap it up with decisions in Java. That is how to use if and else statements. Okay, so very quickly, let's hop over to our IDE. If you have your IntelliJ or NetBeans or Eclipse, any good IDE stored on your system, the procedure for using an IDE is generally the same. Okay, so we are using NetBeans, and if you have your NetBeans started, in order to start a new project, you will have to go to File and then click on New Project, and then select Java Application and then click Next. Then what name do I want to call this application? It is my first, so I'll call it First Java App. First Java App. Okay. Then if I want to change the location of this, I can do that, but I want all of my code to be saved in my documents and in a folder called NetBeans project. And yes, so we can leave every other thing as it is and click on Finish. Now that I've clicked on Finish, observe that I have some codes already written for me. I have, let me take away these comments. We'll look at what comments are shortly, but for now, let me take them away. Comments are actually writings that you find in your code that are not executed. Okay, your compiler sees them and ignores them. So we usually put comments in our code to enhance readability, to enhance those who come up later to read our code, and even ourselves sometimes to know the steps that we are taking. Okay, and there are two ways of doing comments in Java. The first way is what we have here, inline. So the whole of this line is a comment. And how do I make an inline comment? By putting two forward slash like this. So anything that comes after the forward slash becomes a comment. Okay. For most of the comments we are going to be using this introductory series, they are going to be inline. But there are another type of comment, and that is the block comment. And to do the block comment, you put one forward slash, you put an asterisk, then you type out all the comments that you want, and you can see that the ID has already completed the other end of the comment for us. So it is a forward slash asterisk, put all the comments, then asterisk forward slash. That makes up a block comment. Okay, most of the ones we're going to use in this introductory series are going to be the inline comment like this one that we have here. So I've taken away all the comments from this code. So if you start up a fresh Java application with your NetBeans IDE, this is what you're going to have. And I want us to take note of what we have here very carefully. Okay, so we're going to be looking at it carefully. All right. So the first line talks about a package. I don't want you to disturb yourself too much about what a package means now because we are just in an introductory series, okay? But Java programs are stored in packages, and this package can, you can think of it as a directory format. Like you have your documents, you have your pictures, and other directories on your computer, okay? The next line we have is the public class first Java app. Now, every Java program lives inside of a class, and this is because Java is 100% object oriented. So any program you're going to write is going to be inside of a class. All right, and that is why you see it named first Java app. And if you remember, this was the name we called this project while we're creating it in the IDE. We called it first Java application. So every program you're going to write will live inside of a class. And the class has an opening and closing braces. Hopefully you can see the highlighted yellow braces now. So it starts from here and then it ends here. So every other thing will be inside of this class. Okay, in this introductory series, all applications that we're going to be writing are going to live inside of this class, inside of the one class. Okay, but real applications can have different classes and have all these classes calling the methods in from each other. Okay, but this is an introductory series, so for now assume that all your program is going to be inside of a class. Now observe that inside of the class we have something called a method. I've taken it out so that we can see better. So I've taken out that method. Now we have everything inside of the class. You can see the class starts with an opening and a closing brace. Now inside the class you have methods, and this is the method. For now you may want to not to disturb yourself about the syntax of this method, and you also want to just memorize this line of code as it is, but each, that is the public, the static, the void, the main, and the string arguments. Okay, now it's the main method, and I want you to just take it that for every program we're going to be writing, we are going to be writing our source code inside of this main method. So everything you're going to write will be inside of here. And if you observe before, there was a comment here that says something to do or code goes here. Your code goes here. So all the code you're going to be writing will live inside of the main method. So what's the hierarchy? We have our code that we write. Our code stays inside of the main method. The main method stays inside of the class. So the class name here is First Java App. The class begins from here and ends here. Then we have a main method that lives inside of this class. Then the code that we're going to write stays right inside of this main method. I hope we've taken that. I hope that is clear now. All right, let's not forget what we are doing. We are actually going to be writing our first Java program in the NetBeans IDE. So this is the first thing we are doing. Okay, this is the first thing that we are doing. So let's write our first Hello World program, a program that does nothing other than to just print out a line, a line of text on the screen that says Hello World. So remember, I said we write all our code inside of this place. So how do I write a line of text? How do I print a line of text to the screen? Java has a statement for outputting. And any language you study, every language has its own statement for doing different things. So in order to write something to the screen, Java has a line of code called system.out.println. And generally, you just have to know this line as it is. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to know that the line to print, the statement to print something to the text is system.out.println. And now once I've written system.out.println, I'll have to put what I want to be outputted in a quotation mark. So what do I want to be outputted on the screen? I want hello world outputted on the screen. So I want hello world outputted on the screen. So when I run this line, I'm going to have this hello world outputted on the screen, and we can check that out by right clicking. What I did is I right clicked and then I said run file. So right click, run file. Right now we're waiting for our program to run, and you see down here we have the output hello world. Okay, now we can also have as many output statements that we have here, and we can make our output statement output whatever we want to be outputted. It doesn't matter, anything you write here, it's just going to come out the exact same way you have written it. So you can see that that long, I can run from here, so I'm running from here. That long line of text that means nothing is going to be outputted that same way, the way we have written it. Okay, so that's your first Java program, and if you have succeeded in following through this code and you have arrived at this place, congratulations, you have written your first Java program. All right, so your first Java program used just one line of statement to output something to the screen. But that was not such a reasonable program, if you agree with me. We want programs to solve problems. We want our programs to solve problems, and that brings us to the concept of uh, variables. Okay, it brings us to the concept of variables, and as you can see on my screen, variables are containers that store data values. And in Java, we have different types of variables. We have the string. What a string does is that string stores text. And the string, whenever we use a string, we are going to put them in quotation mark, and we're going to see an example of that quickly. Then we have another data type called the integer. The integer stores whole numbers, numbers that don't have decimal points, okay? Then we have float. Float stores floating point numbers, decimals, 19.9 minus 19 point something, anything that has a decimal point, float handles it. Then we have characters that are represented by single quotation. And then finally, we have Boolean that stores um, yes or no, 0 or 1, true or false kind of variable. So let's hop back again to our NetBeans and see how we can write a program that makes use of variables. So before you can make use of a variable in Java, you must declare that variable. So assume for a moment that we have a program that is playing around with people's names. So I want to say the first person's name is John. In order to say the first person's name is John, I have to create a variable of type string. So I do that by typing string. And I want to say first name is equal to John Johnson. So here we go. What have I done? I have declared a variable. There are three parts of this variable that I have declared, three parts to it. The first thing is that I mentioned the type of data that this variable will hold. In this case, the variable will hold a string, and a string is a group of concatenation of text, a group of text, right? Then I also gave this variable a name. I called it first name. And then I stored a value inside of it, and the value in this case is what? John Johnson. Don't forget that you can store anything as long as you put it in quotation marks, okay? It's going to be stored as a string. It's going to be stored as a string. So the value John Johnson is stored inside of first name, and it is of type string. So this is how we declare variables, okay? The next thing is that we want to hold first person's age. So I can come out here now, and I know that age is a whole number, and whole numbers have to be stored inside of integers. So I can say int age or int first person's age is equal to 39 or 38. Observe what I've done. I have not put this 38 in quotation mark, okay? Because this is a whole number. This 38 is stored inside of the first person's age, which is a variable, and then it is of type integer, okay? Good. Now let's go ahead and do something else. Use another data type. Yes, let's use another data type. So this time around, Boolean. And I'm going to say Boolean first person, no, adult, Boolean adult, first person, no, first person is adult and is equal to true. You know, the first person is an adult. So that's why I assign true value to this. Okay. Now let's create another person. Let's create variables to hold a second person. So I come over here and I do this. And this time around, I'm going to change this to, I just copied and pasted, okay? I'm going to change this to second name. And it's not going to be John Johnson anymore. It's going to be Peter Roberts. And Peter Roberts is going to be 15 years old. And his child, let me call this variable now, his child. His child is still going to be true, isn't it? I'm just showing us how to declare variables. We're not going to do any serious things with this. So I'm just showing you how to declare variables, okay? So I've declared total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variables here. 6 variables, and they are doing different things. Now I can use my print statement to print the age of the first person. So I can go ahead now, and I'm doing this now so as to show us how we can concatenate string um with integers, okay? So I'm coming out here and I'm doing system.out.println. Remember I told us that system.out.println is a statement in Java that we use to output something to the screen. So I want to output the first person's name. So whatever I want to output usually is going to be inside of the double quotation mark like this. But don't forget that I can also concatenate. I can add another variable to whatever is inside of a string. So I can go ahead now and do system.out.println the first person's name is, and I want to store first name here. First name. Okay, where is first name coming from? Our ID already helps us out. First name is coming from here. So whatever is stored inside of this first name is what is going to be printed out. Okay, so is first name, and then I want to concatenate something else. I want to add another thing. His age is, and then I want to add. Now let me break this to another line. Let me take this another line. Okay. His age is, then plus first person's age. So here we go. I created a variable called first name. I created another variable of type integer called first person's age. I created this, which I'm not really using, but I wanted to show you how we can create Boolean variables. Okay. And I'm deciding to just print the information about the first person only. So now I want to run this application and I can do it from here. So it tells me that the first person's age is John Johnson and his age is 38, which is exactly the information that I have up there. Okay, now there's something else I want us to quickly do. So in order to do that, I want to comment out all of this that I've done already. I want to comment out this. I want us to write a simple program now that does addition of three numbers. So if I want to write a simple program that does addition of three numbers, it means I have to create those three numbers, right? So we'll create those three numbers of type integer. So int num1 is equal to 12. And then I create a second number, int num2 is equal to 13. And then I create a third number, int num3 is equal to 15. So I've created those three numbers. I want to write a program that will find their sum and average, isn't it? So I will do so by I'll create another variable called sum, int sum, and I will say sum should be num1 plus num2 plus num3. So see what I got? So it means that sum is going to add these three together. And then I want to create another variable. This time around, I want to hold it as a float because float or double can serve these purposes, okay? Because float can hold decimal points. So I'm going to do float and I'll call that variable average is equal to sum divided by 3. So now I want to print out my sum and I will do that inside our output statement, which is system.out.println. So I'm going to delete everything that was originally inside of this system.out.println, and then I'll start afresh. So what do I want to print out? I want to print out sum, and I also want to print out average. System.out.println, and I'll also print out average. So if I run this application now, it's going to display for me sum and average, and you can find that like this. You see, it tells me that the sum is what 40, the average is 13.0. But sometimes I want to enhance my output, and that brings us again to string concatenation. I want to put a string in addition to this variable called sum. So I can put two quotation marks and then put a plus sign. And then inside of the quotation mark, I'm going to type the sum of the three numbers is, and then I can do the same thing and I'm going to copy and paste so I can be faster I can do the same thing here, and I'll say the average of the three numbers is, and now I'm not going to, oh, I already have it here, is what? Average. So if I run this application now, it's going to display for me the sum of the three numbers. Sum of the number is 40, the average of the three numbers is 10, which is the correct output that we expect. Okay, now that we have done this, I want us to move to the next thing I have outlined here for us to do this. That's how we write a program that receives user input. Then the user enters a value, and then it stores that value in a variable. You will observe that what we have done so far is that we had programs that we fixed this value. We created num1 and we fixed the value of 12. What if the user wanted to find the average of another number, like 20, like 100, like 55? So good program should allow the user to enter the value that he or she wants to enter, isn't it? So that brings us to using of the scanner class. There is a special class in Java called the scanner class that allows us to receive values from the user. And I want you to really take that statement down. I said, let me write it here. In order to receive user input, I hope you guys can see this. In order to receive user input, we'll have to make use of a special class called scanner. Okay, the special class in Java called scanner that you must use in order to receive user input. And we are going to see how we use that class in 3 steps. So in 3 steps, the first step is you must import the scanner class if you are going to use it. Import the scanner class. In order to use it, you must import it. The next step is create an object. Create an object of the scanner class. I know somebody is asking already, how do I create an object? Don't worry, that's why I'm here. I'm going to show you. So create an object of the scanner class. Then the last step is use the object you have created. Use the object to receive user input. Okay, so 3 steps. So quickly let's run to our IDE and see how we make these 3 steps. Okay, we'll import the scanner class, which is the first thing, and because of that, I'm taking away all the code. Should I take them away or should I just comment? Which one? I think I should take them away. So I'll take away all the code that I've written so far, so we can have more space. No, yeah, let's just take them away. They are not very important code. So the first step I said is to create the scanner, import the scanner class. First step, import the scanner class. First step, import the scanner class. The question you should be asking now is, where do I import? How do I import? Very important question. We import the scanner class by writing import java.util.scanner. So that's how we import the scanner class. And the next question you should be asking is, where do I type this line of code? You will have to type this line of code at the top of your class declaration. That is immediately after your package. You have to type import java.util.scanner. So we have done step 1, isn't it? Remember we said step 1 is import the scanner class. So we have done that. And we have seen where we import the scanner class, right on top of your class declaration. Right on top of the class declaration. Okay, so the next thing now I said we're going to make an object of this class. So let's go and do that. And where do I make this object? I do it inside the main method. Inside the main method. So let's head over to our IDE, and we have imported. We want to make an object. I say we'll make that object inside of the main method. Now, how do I make an object? I make an object by calling the name of that class. The name of this class is scanner, as you can see, and I'll just copy it from there. So I copy and I just paste it inside here. So you type the name of that class, then you now make an object. The object is any name you want to give to it. So now I'm going to call this object IN, and you can call your object anything. All right, you can call it literally anything that follows Java naming conventions anyway. So I call my object IN. Then I must say it's equal to new scanner, and then I'll say system.in. So you must write this line like this. Okay, you have to write this line like this. This line creates an object of the scanner class. So it has created an object of the scanner class. It has called that object IN. And right now we can move on to step 3. And what is step 3? Step 3 says use that object to receive user input. So we want to use that object now to receive user input. But before we can receive user input, we should ask the user, right? We should ask the user to enter a value. In fact, before then, we should create some variables so that when the user inputs a value, we'll store inside of that variable. You get a point? Good. So I'm going to create 3 variables, int num1. And you observe that this time around, I'm not assigning values anymore. You know, initially I say num1 is equal to 12. I'm not doing that anymore. Why? Because I want it to be that is the value the user enters at the keyboard that will be stored inside of num1. So I'll create another variable num2. And then I create another variable num3. So I have 3 variables, but there is nothing stored inside of them yet. So what do I want to do? I want to use this object. Remember we said here, use the object to receive user input. So I want to use this object, this IN, to receive the user input and store it inside of num1. I'll receive another one and store inside of num2. I'll receive another one and store inside of num3. So now let's go. Now, but before then, I have to communicate to the user to enter first number. So I'll say system.out.println, and I'll ask the user, please enter the first number. Enter the first number. So I'm expecting the user at this point to enter the first number, isn't it? Good. And so I'll say num1. Where is num1 coming from? Num1 is coming from here. I declared it before. Will be equal to IN. You see, IN coming from here is the object of the scanner class. IN.next integer. So I'm simply saying the next integer that the user enters, please IN, you are the object of the scanner class. I'm using you to receive the next integer that the user enters. And once you receive that, please store it inside of num1 for me. I'll make use of it later. Okay. Now I have to repeat the same line, and I'm going to copy and paste. I have to repeat the same line for num2. So in the case of num2, I will ask the user system.out.println, please enter the second number. And then I'm going to store that inside of num2. Then I have to repeat it again for my third number. And I'll say enter the third number. And then I want to store it inside of what? Num3. So at this point, whatever the user has entered the first time is stored inside num1. Whatever enters the second time is stored inside num2. Whatever enters the third time is stored inside num3. And I can come down here now and make use of those 3 numbers. So I want to first of all find the sum, and I'll say in sum is equal to num1 plus num2, like we did before, num2 plus num3. Okay, then what do I want to do with sum? I want to find the average, so I'll say float or double. We used float before, so let's use double this time. Double average is equal to sum divided by 3, and we have literally done the same thing that we did before. So I can come down here now and print out my sum and average. So system.out.println, and I'll say the sum of the 3 numbers is then plus the sum. And let me just quickly do the same thing for average, so we can see. So I can come and see the average, average of the three numbers is average. So if we run this code now, we're going to get the output the way we want it, okay? So it's asking me now, if you see down here, it's asking me to enter the first number. So I'll enter 45. So it's asking me for the second number, I enter 12, 13. Then I enter 45 again. So it tells me the sum of the three numbers is 103. Their average is what? 34. So our code has worked the exact way that we expect it to work. Okay, so that's how to use the scanner class to receive user input. And you can receive all manner of user inputs. You can receive all manner of user input. Now let's quickly look at another one that makes us to receive. And for that, I will start. Let me start a new project. So I start a new project, and then I call it scanner. I'm going to call this project scanner example. Though we have looked at an example of scanner before, but it doesn't really matter. Scanner example, and then I click finish. So now I have this new project, comes with all this baggage of comments. I will take them out so we can have more space. And we'll jump right into the main method like I've explained before. And we want to use a scanner class. So remember I said we must import the scanner class right on top of the public class declaration. So I say import scanner java dot util dot scanner. Okay, so I import that. And then now I want to receive somebody's name and age. I want to receive somebody's name and age. So I'll have to make an object of this. Remember, I've imported scanner. The next step is to make an object of it, right? So I'll say scanner in. I choose to call the object in again is equal to new scanner system dot in. So that's that for that line. I've made an object of the scanner class. The next thing is I want to use that object. So I'm going to create two variables, string name. You see, I'm not doing anything with name. I just created it. And then int age. I've not done anything with this. I'm going to use the scanner class to receive value for age and name. Okay, so I'm going to type out now to the user, and I'll ask the user to system.out.println. Please enter your name. Please enter your name. And then once the user enters a name, I want to store that name inside of this variable. So I'll come here and I'll say name is equal to input. Input.next line. Remember before we did in is what I'm supposed to do, not input, okay? Because I did not call this input. In.next. Okay, I can use next, I can use next line whenever you are receiving a text. So I choose to use next line. As we go on with time, you're going to see the difference between next and next line, okay? Then we have received the user's name at this point. We want to receive the user's age as well. So we can come over here and say, please enter your age. Observe that I just copied that line, okay? So I'll say int, no, I'll say age, I've declared it already. Age is equal to in.next, not line this time around, but what? Next int. It is next line here because we want everything that is typed on the keyboard to be received and stored inside of name. And that is going to be a text. And we declare this variable to be of type string, okay? In this second instance, this variable is of type integer, so we cannot use next line here, but it has to be the next integer. All right, so that's what is happening here. Now we have received the user's age and name. So what do we want to do with age and this name that we have received? We want to greet the user. So to greet the user, it means we have to write out something to the string, to the console again. So I'll say system dot out dot print hello. So say hello. I'm going to add the person's name here. which is in this case, and then I'll put another concatenation again, and I'll say your age is, and then I'll add this age here, and then finally I still put another concatenation. I just want you guys to master how to do this concatenation, and I'll say welcome to Java programming. That's a very long line, so I can cut it somewhere here. So I decided to cut that line so we can have everything on our screen. So now let's run the application and see what happens. So please enter your name. What's your name? James Peters. Please enter your age. I am 16. So hello, James Peters. Your age is 16. You are welcome to Java programming is the output we get, which is exactly what we are expecting. So that brings us to the end of our first part of this class, which is what we actually did last week, writing our first Java program. And I really want you guys to practice this, okay? I want you guys to practice this. Go ahead, write a simple Java program that allows you to do some additions. Then write another program that allows you to receive user input of type integer, of type string. Ensure that you are able to output a line of text like this that greets a user, that is able to concatenate name and what some type of string, that is able to concatenate some variables and some type of string. Okay, next up we are heading to look at the third thing we want to do in today's class, which is how do I do decision statements in Java. Okay, so let's quickly, we've seen variables and data types, or I didn't mention primitive data types today, but let's look at if and else statement because of our time now. Now, Java supports the use of logical conditions like we find in mathematics. So sometimes we want to compare some variables, we want to check out which is less than, which is greater than, are they equal to each other, are they not equal, and all of those kind of stuff. Now, in Java programming, we make use of a decision statement called if. Okay, so that's what we want to see now, if statement. And we want to see how we can use if statement to write programs that take decision. So we want to look at the syntax of the if statement. The syntax of the if statement is exactly what we have here. As you can see, this is the syntax of the if statement. You will write the keyword if, then you're going to open bracket like we have here. And then you're going to put a condition inside of this bracket. Now, what is the condition? The condition is something that makes use of these conditional operators that you just saw here: greater than, less than, greater or equal to, less or equal to, greater or equal to, exactly equal to, not equal to. So these are the kind of things that you're going to find inside of this bracket. In programming terms, we call it a Boolean condition. A Boolean condition, a condition that evaluates to true or false. And then, so Java is going to check, is this condition here true? If it is true, Java is going to execute the statements that you have outlined here. If it is false, it is not going to execute anything. Okay, so that's a simple if. So we have an example here. We declare two variables, num1 equals to 15, num2 is equal to 16, and then we wrote an example here. We said if num1 is greater than num2, is num1 greater than num2 in this case? I don't think so. But we have said that if num1 is greater than num2, then our program should do something. It should output this line. Unfortunately, num1 is not greater than num2, so this is not going to execute. Okay, now that's a simple if. We have another variant of if called the typical if. When you write your program, it's not going to stay alone. It's going to work with an else statement. Okay, so if you come over here, you may want to put an else statement here, because right now if we say if num1 is greater than num2, output this, and it turned out that num1 is not greater than num2, we may want our program to do else. So it is simple English. If this is true, do this. Else, do this or that stuff. Okay, so that makes us, most times whenever we use the if statement, it makes us to have if and else hand in hand, both of them working together. And then we find out that the syntax for the if and else is something like this. Okay, so it's simple. If condition is true, I'm going to do everything that is inside of this code block. Okay? What if it is not true? I will do the else part. So I'll now do this other stuff that is inside of this code block. This is exactly how this runs. Okay? So let's hop over to our IDE. We have an example here, but we're going to see the example more inside of our IDE and see exactly how this stuff works. Okay, so I'm starting a new project. I will say file, new project, and it's still Java application, next. And I want to call this new project if else example. Okay, like we always did. I'm sure I'm doing this over and over so that we really master how to create new projects all the time. Okay, so we've created our new project if else example. It's in a package called if else, and then the class of course is if else because that's the name we gave it while we're creating the project. And then I'm taking away all these comments so that we can have more space here. All right, so we will declare three variables. So I'll declare two, no, not three, two. Int num1 is equal to 12, and then I come here and I say int num2 is equal to 13. Then I want to check if num1 is greater than num2. So I'll say if num1 is greater than num2, what should I do? I should write a statement here that says system dot out dot print ln, and I'll say num1 is greater. Very simple line of code, isn't it? Num1 is greater. So this is a simple if and else. Now, if I run this code now, nothing is going to be outputted. You know why? Because num1 is not greater. And we can verify that if I right click and I run file, nothing came out. If you can see my console, there's nothing outputted. Why? Because this condition is false. Num1 is not greater. Okay, but if I change the value of num1 to 17, now it's greater. So if I run this application now, it's going to tell me num1 is greater. So it tells me here num1 is greater. Okay. Meanwhile, I don't like the way I have hard coded these values. I want us to rather use scanner class and ask the user to enter number 1 and number 2, and then check which is greater among number 1 and number 2, and then write the appropriate response out. That will also lead us to do our else example. So import, because we want to receive user input, I'm going to import java.util.scanner. Then I am coming inside of my main method now to make an object of the scanner class. So I'll say scanner in is equal to new scanner system dot in. Then please, this in, they have no relationship. In fact, let me change the name of this variable. I'll use in severally. So I've changed the name of this object of the scanner class to input and no more in. So here I'm going to ask the user, please enter first number. Please enter, no, that's just enter first number. Enter first number. And then what do I want to do with first number? I want to use, yes, so I'm no longer going to fix this to 6. I observe, I'm no longer fixing this to 17. I'm using the object of the scanner class, which is input dot next. Next what? Next integer. So whatever the user enters is going to be stored here. I'm no longer hard coding. Okay. Then I'll do the same thing for the second number. So I just want to copy this line. Copy this line and put it around here. And I'm requesting for the second number. And then second number, I'm fixing it to what? Input dot next. Input dot next integer. Okay, so now I've received first and second number. Now I have not hard coded it. It's up to the user, whatever he enters. Okay, now I'm going to do another thing. I'm going to say if num1 is greater than num2, then do everything that is inside of this. Else, so I'm adding an else statement. Else system dot out dot print ln, and you are going to say num2 number 2 is greater. That makes logical sense, isn't it? But what if the numbers are equal to each other? Now we are not going to handle that situation yet, okay? Because a user can actually run and enter the same number for number 1 and number 2, and our code will be confused. It will not know what to do, isn't it? So enter first number is asking me to enter first number, so I enter 12. Enter second number, I enter 500. So what does it tell me? Number 2 is greater. Okay, and which is true. Number 2 is greater. Now we have not written this code to handle a situation where the two numbers are equal, and that takes us to another thing called else if. So back to my slide, we have another syntax for this if statement called the else if. Okay, now else if allows us to write if else in more than just one. It allows us to have more than one else. Okay, so use the else if statement to specify a new condition if the first one is false. So if, for example, I wanted to go ahead now and check for equality, so I can come here and say else if the two numbers are the same, that's num1 is equal to num2. Observe that equality is checked differently. Equality in programming is actually 2 equals to. The single equals to you've been using all along is called an assignment. Okay, you use it to assign a value to a variable. So this is equality. So else if the two numbers are equal, I'll say the two numbers are equal. Else, now I can finally come and type my else. I think I should show you guys the shortcut for typing system.out.println, since we'll be using a lot of it. And in NetBeans, in IntelliJ, you can simply type Sout, SOUT, and hit your tab key, and you have it. I'll show you again. So you can do Sout, hit your tab key, and you have that, because we'll be doing that all over, or a lot of times. Okay. So now I'll say num2, number 2 is greater. Okay, so I brought an else if here, and I need to quickly mention to you that you can have several else if, a lot of else if. You're just introducing a new condition each time. Okay, if number 1 is greater than number 2, say that number 1 is greater. Else if number 1 is equal to number 2, then say that number 2 is greater. And then else if those first two conditions are not true, it simply means number 2 is greater. Okay, now if we run this application now, and I want to quickly do that, and I enter 55 for first number, and I enter 55 for second number, what will it tell me? The two numbers are equal. Okay, now before we wrap up today, remember we are just doing if and else. We are stopping at if and else. In the next video that I'm putting up, we are looking at looping statements. Okay, while loops. All right, so today we want to end up with if and else. I want to quickly do an age checker application. Let's do an age checker application quickly. So observe, what have I done? I went to file, I started a new project, and I want it to be Java application as always, and then I want to call it age checker. Okay, so I click on what? Finish. And what do I want to do in this age checker? I am writing an application that will request for the user's age. So the user will enter his age, and then my application will say will allow the user in, depending on if the user is a child or an adult. Okay, so this application will request and receive a user's age. That tells us that we must use our scanner class. So I'll say import java .util .scanner .scanner, and then inside of my main method I want to make an object of that scanner class, as we have always done. Scanner input is equal to new scanner system.in. Then I want to make use of that. I'll first of all ask the user to enter a name. See, I'm using my south now as a shortcut for system.out. So I'll say please enter your age. So the user enters his age, and I want to receive that age and store in a variable of type integer. So I'll say int age is equal to whatever the user enters is equal to input dot what, next integer. Okay, so now I've received the age, so I want to test the age, and I will say if the age the user entered is less than 18. Okay, it's less than 18, my program should say sorry. So I'll say south, sorry, you cannot enter. Okay, else my program should say welcome to our website. Else so I'm doing my shorthand again for south. Welcome to our website. Is it? So it's a simple age checker, and I encourage you to make sure you try this out. All right. So I'll quickly run it now. Run 5, and it's going to ask me enter your age. You can see here it's asking me please enter your age. So I'll enter 12, and what will happen? It's supposed to tell me sorry you cannot enter. Okay. What if I run it again and now enter a number that is greater than 18? So it's asking me again, please enter your age, and I entered 20. So now it's going to tell me, welcome to our website. So guys, this is what we set out to cover in today's class. Starting off writing our first Java application. Then we saw how we could use variables. We saw how we could receive user input and output with the scanner class. And then we went ahead to see how we can introduce condition into our programs. Okay, in the next video, in the next lesson, we will see how we can use our while loop, and then we're going to build from there. We'll build an interesting application for the first time. Okay, so I encourage you to like this video, to subscribe, and share it. Make sure you like it. Make sure you like it so I can get more audience on this video. All right, so like it, subscribe to this channel, and then if you want the source code, just leave a comment for me below, and then I'll send it to your email. All right, so enjoy your day. Nice having you around.